بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. فما بعد, my brothers and sisters, we continue with our series of lectures on marriage, and I was talking to you about the keys to making a marriage a happy marriage, and all that we need to be clear about, which is, I call them the critical requirements, and there are, as I said, 6 of them. We talked about 4 actually last session, and let me quickly go over them. Just as a reminder, the first one, of course, is Islam. How is the religion of the person you are marrying, the man or the woman, because this is what Rasulullah reminded us and told us to focus on and choose for that reason, for religion. Second one, I told you, forget falling in love, think about growing in love. And the third one, and extremely important, is manners. What are the manners of that person like? And the fourth one, I said, is conversation, because conversation is the lifeblood of marriage, and therefore it is a very critical and important thing. We look at the fifth one now, which is a common life goal. Now, having said common life goal, I don't mean necessarily that it should be exactly the same thing, right? I want to be a doctor, my wife also should want to be a doctor. No. But commonalities, look for commonalities in interests, or commonalities in life goals. Commonality is very important, especially there should be a match, especially if you are passionate about something, because otherwise your marriage won't break up, but it becomes sometimes it's like a stone in your shoe. It's, to begin with, it's small, then later on it causes a sore there as you continue to walk. Remember that you are, Bismillah ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you a long and very fulfilling and happy married life. You may be together for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. People celebrate their golden wedding anniversary, which means 50 years, right? I'm not asking you to celebrate the anniversary, I'm just mentioning things to you. So you are going to be together for the next several to many decades, not years, inshallah. So therefore, it's important that you get on with the right things. Otherwise, and then make sure that you're going to be focused in generally the same direction, because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of time alone, or you will create conflicts. You will have conflicts. In today's age, also, sometimes people think that it is possible, she can do her own thing, I can do my own thing, and we can still be happy together. Yes and no. Depends on what that own thing is. Right? Depends on what that own thing is. Now, my wife and I, we have been married, alhamdulillah, for 36 years. My interests, one is, of course, my interest in leadership training and development. I'm absolutely passionate about that. I'm, alhamdulillah, passionate about my deen, and very passionate about putting the two together. My key, I think, contribution, or my key USP is not, I have never claimed to be an alim of Islam. In leadership training and development, yes, definitely, alhamdulillah, bismillah ta'ala, I have a international standing. But in Islam, I'm, like everybody else, I'm trying to learn, trying to do what I can do. But what I do try, and alhamdulillah, I have been successful in that, is to bridge this gap between Islam, as in theology, and our modern way of life, especially living in the West. And today the West is everywhere. It's not just a direction. The West is everywhere because we all live in westernized cultures, westernized societies. We all speak English language, for that matter. We work for Western corporations. We use products which are Western in origin, although most of them are manufactured in China, and so on and so forth. So there is very often there is a big disconnect between traditional Islamic values, Islamic ethics, morals, and Western ethics, morals, and values. Now, I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong. I mean, obviously, Islam is right. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But not everything in the West is wrong. There are many things in the West which are very beautiful and very and extremely good. But there is sometimes a conflict of understanding, and so I have tried to bridge that because I live in two worlds. I live right now. Actually, I'm even living in America. So, but even when I lived in India, I mentally and figuratively speaking, as well as mentally, as well as psychologically, I live in two worlds because I consult with corporate organizations which are mostly Western, and then of course we have our own masjid in Hyderabad and so on and so forth. So there is a very strong Islamic fundamental Islamic foundation, fundamental Islamic foundation, which is the fundamental of our deen, which is the pillar of our deen, which is Islam, and so therefore I live in these two worlds. So that's why I try to bring these two together. So my interest is this Islam and leadership development. And then my other very major interest, which I'm very passionate about, is the outdoors, is the environment. Not merely as an activist against environmental pollution, in favor of wildlife and ecological conservation, and as a photographer. I am very passionate about photography, especially wildlife photography, wildlife and birds. So this is my look. My wife, on the other hand, is an abstract painter. She's an artist. She is into abstract painting. She is into, and so therefore her, impressionists and all kinds of art work, especially painting. And abstract is her forte. She is a very fine abstract painter herself. So, and then my other interest is writing. So I write books. I have currently published 40 books, 40, Alhamdulillah. My latest book is on my tea planting experience, which should be out next week. And after that will be a book which is also in print. I also gone to the publisher, which is on it's called From India to the Indies, which is my childhood and youth, where I grew up in Hyderabad, and then at the age of about 22, I traveled to South America, to Guyana, where I lived and worked for 5 years. So I have written about those times and my journeys and what I did in both places, and not just what I did as in incident, but learnings. Basically, all my writing is concerned with my learnings in life. I'm trying to get this topi to sit in one place. Okay. So with so that book will be out, and that will be the 41st book, and then I write all my khutbahs. So the second khutbah book, since being in America, will also come out, inshallah. Again, all of this will happen between September and October, inshallah. The point I want to make is, therefore, I spend a lot of time at my desk or with my camera or before COVID traveling. And so, going to places, especially South Africa, especially the African countries, especially wildlife sanctuaries in India and so on. Now, my wife's interest in wildlife is zero. For her, a lion is a lion is a lion. An elephant is an elephant is an elephant. For me, no. Each one has its own individuality and whatnot. Her interest in photography is exactly like my interest in abstract painting or other painting, which is I look at the picture, I said, "Oh, it looks nice," and that's it. My interest in abstract painting, sometimes I don't even think it looks nice. It looks nice. So I go purely by visual appeal. If I like it, I like it. Sometimes I look at the abstract painting and I said, "What does it mean?" My wife says, "What does it mean to you?" Now that's like, it really, my brain goes like a cat with a ball of wool. So you can see our two interests are very different. Also, she spends a lot of time in her studio, and I spend a lot of time in my study. Studio, study, STU is the only common thing in that. And then, of course, I spend a lot of time outdoors. Now, outdoors, my wife's again. She has to be dragged, with a tow chain on a 4-wheel truck to take her outdoors. When she goes, she enjoys it, but most of the time she is indoors. She likes to be indoors. She likes to paint and so on. Very different. Now you will say, "Well, then how come you lasted for 36 years?" Because we appreciate each other. We appreciate each other's work. Even if you don't understand something, we appreciate each other's work. We also have we have our own understanding with each other. For example, I am severely allergic to shopping. So I never go. I skirt far away from malls and shops. Everything I have or own or wear, my wife gets it for me. She is the one who does the shopping, including things like shoes and so on. So she says, "It's crazy. It's your foot. You need to try it out." I said, "No, you. This is my size. You get it. If it doesn't fit, then we return it." But my wife also has full access to our bank account. She has a credit card, which I never question her about. So you have to have these things which are, which work. I mean, you can't say, "Well, I'm not going to go shopping," but then you can't have the money to shop. So then what happens? So this is the meeting of minds in terms of values, meeting of understanding between what's important to you, what's important to me, and how do the two work and function together. Just because there is a difference in difference in interest does not mean that everything falls apart. It doesn't fall apart provided you respect each other and provided you allow each other space to operate within their framework. So when I go out, for example, even though, believe me, I mean, I think in Jannah we are going to sit together and watch and enjoy nature. Sometimes it breaks my heart when I'm outside. I want to show her something. I say, "Subhanallah, look at this beautiful scene." I look here, there, this. My wife is not there because she hasn't come with me. I would give an arm and a leg to have her come out with me in the wilds, in the bush, and so on and so forth. But I know she doesn't like it. She did it initially when we got married out of politeness, and I think that was a big mistake we made, because one day there was one of my dearest or the dearest friend I ever had, called Bertie Suarez. He died in an accident. So Bertie, his wife Jenny, and my wife and I in Ooty, in the Nilgiris. We went those days. I used to hunt. So we were going on a hunt after summer, and to make a long story short, we walked 8 hours, and this is up and down hills, and I think that my wife's lifetime's interest in the outdoors, it ran out in that one in that one day, and after that I've never been able to persuade her even to step out of the out into the front yard. So anyway, I mean, you make mistakes and you learn from them. But the point I'm making is that now that I know she's not interested, I don't insist on it. I still invite her, but she doesn't come. So similarly, she doesn't invite me to go. And for example, they went the other day. She and a friend of hers, one of her very close friends from Delhi, they went to New York to the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA. But I didn't go with them. I just stayed home, and I was reading Connie Gilden's book, and that was fantastic. I enjoyed myself sitting at home reading my book, and they went, and the two of them went to the Museum of Modern Art. I know if I had gone, I would have been miserable. And she knows that. So she doesn't tell me, no, you must come. No, similarly, it's the same thing. So, thing is, common interest. But if the things are two opposite things, then there is a problem. Because, for example, I mean, if you are, if you are the equivalent of George Soros, and your wife is an activist, she's the equivalent of the chief of the Communist Party, then you're going to have problems. I mean, so think think about that. Now, having said all of this, you need support in your life goal, and this is something that my wife has done with me all my life, which is that she supported me completely and totally in my life goal. That's a very long story. It's a beautiful story. Those of you who are interested, read my book. It's called An Entrepreneur's Diary, where I have traced this and what I did, and how we struggled. Believe me, to make a long story short, for 13 years, we did not take a single day's vacation. 13 years. Now, I was doing that because I was passionate about studying leadership and management, but my wife need not have cooperated with me in that, but she did. Every spare cent, and those cents in those days were paisas, because we were in India. Every spare paisa was spent on my training, on books which I needed to buy, on third-class train fares to go from place to place to study, and that meant that money was not available to my wife as discretionary spending. She wanted to spend something, but it just wasn't there. I was earning a pittance anyway, so there wasn't much money to spare in any case, and whatever there was to spare went in my training and my studying for myself. Right? She never complained. Everyone, we were living in the boondocks, we were living in the tea gardens. Very, very beautiful part of the world, but obviously isolated. Every one of our friends had a television set. We didn't have it. They all had, in those days, VCRs, video cassette recorders. They used to watch videos, video films. The women used to watch video films at least one a day. We didn't have either of them. Not because we were, very pious, but because we had no money. She never complained. 1 month after we got married, I went off to do my executive MBA in the IIM Ahmedabad, and she went to her parents, and that time her parents were in the UK, so she went to the UK. The entire duration of that period of study, those days, telephone calls, which is international trunk calls, were astronomically expensive. I had no money. So that entire period, we did not speak for us. We didn't even make one single telephone call. Letters, yeah, you could write a letter. It took 3 weeks to get to the UK, and then if she replied immediately, it took another 3 weeks to get back. But she cooperated with me. So she has been absolutely my backbone as far as my achievements are concerned. I can quite happily say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supported me, and in this world my wife supported me. Otherwise I would never have succeeded. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. That is why it's very important. You can have separate interests, but especially for your life goal, you need support. So whatever it is, whether your life goal is to change the world or to raise children, it is the same thing. Believe me, raising children is the most important and the most time-consuming and activity that I can ever imagine. Alhamdulillah, mercifully, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give me any children. That's why I write books about how people should raise children. So but you need that support. So you need to support her in raising of children, you meaning the man, and the woman. If she supports you in your life goal, then you are, believe me, onto a very good thing. So shut your mouth about everything else. You need somebody to share your pain and joy. You need someone to give you ideas. You need someone to listen to you with interest, at least pretend, be a good actor. You definitely do not need somebody who runs your life goal down as being unimportant. Now, this happens quite a lot, especially if the interests are separate. You might have the wife or the husband very passionate about something, and the other one say, I leave it, what the hell, it's not so important. And that's like showing a red rag to a bull, right? That's a good way of committing suicide. Um, you need someone who has a life goal that inspires you to invest your time, energy, emotion, and thought in that. So that's what my wife did. Alhamdulillah, my life goal inspired her as well, and she invested her life in my life goal, and Alhamdulillah, that was the reason why I was able to succeed. Serious long-term pursuits are the secret of happy marriages. So having a life goal is a very important thing also for your marriage. It gives you purpose for the marriage. Otherwise, the marriage sometimes just runs out of interest, out of pursuit. Uh, Kitty parties, boys' nights out, the bowling alley, your club, all of these things are detrimental to marriages. If you are going to the bowling alley, let husband and wife both go together, right? But if you are, the long and short of it is, if you are going to spend long times apart from each other, it is not going to do much good to your marriage. If you do that, then at least make sure that you take vacations, you go together somewhere where just the two of you and so on. That might work. That might work. But time together, I mean, to make it short, time together is absolutely critical for a happy marriage. We come to the sixth one, which is the family. And we are talking now about selecting your spouse. So, and I said the whole idea of life goal and so on is in that conversation you have when you meet your spouse, a prospective spouse, you are going to talk about this. Then we come to the family. Now look at the whole family. It's very important because the whole family influences the individual. The individual is going to be like the rest of the family. Yes, Musa alayhi salam was born in the family of Firaun, and his wife did not look at the family of Firaun when she married him. But those are exceptions. If you find that the family of your wife is not very serious about religion, they will eat anything which walks or which stopped walking. Their earnings are from various sources. They don't care as long as the money comes. It's okay. हमारे हैदराबादी मुहावरे बोलते हैं दाल अब्दुल्ला गुड़ थैले में बोलते whatever comes, it's okay. And they are into ostentation, they are into showing off, they are into... Now, don't touch them with a barge pole. No matter how much you think you are in love with that boy or that girl, with that man or the woman, leave them alone. It's not going to work out, because more than likely, no matter what they tell you, what this young man or woman tells you in your meeting, the chances are the influence is there. One of the problems with these face-to-face meetings is you must have them. As I told you, Islamically they are mandated. But obviously, this is like a job interview, right? You don't go to the job interview in your pajamas, but you're going to wake up every day, every morning in your pajamas. So these meetings sometimes tend to be a bit artificial. Everybody, both of them are on their best behavior. I'm not saying go there and misbehave. But necessarily think about that also. What you're seeing there is not exactly how that person is. It doesn't mean they are fooling you, but it just means that different situations, people are different. So look at the whole family. Go to meet the whole family. Look at their aqidah. Look at their religious practice. Without asking, just see, do they, at the time of salah, do they get up, do they pray? Or what happens. About the aqidah, look around the house. Do you see any tawizes and stuff? What do you see in the house? What is put there? What is not put there? What do they celebrate? What is their culture like? If you are looking at a prospective bride and you find that the mother doesn't do hijab, sisters, aunts, nobody does hijab, and then you are expecting your wife to be hijabi, niqabi, well, give yourself a break. So their lifestyle, their norms. My mother, may Allah forgive her and bless her and give her Jannah, she used to say in Urdu, Hyderabadi Urdu में बोलते थे मेरी वालदा कि मलमल के कुर्ते को जामेवार का पेवन नहीं लगाते बोलते थे. Now, Jamewar is gold brocade, which is heavy, and Malmal is very fine muslin. So she used to say, if a muslin cloth, muslin, kurta shirt has a tear, you don't put a Jamewar, a brocade patch on it, because if you put a heavy patch on it, it will tear even more. So what she meant was that the importance of economic matching between the two families. Yes, it is, I'm not saying that obviously dollar for dollar it doesn't have to match, but if you marry somebody who's from a very different and economically a very widely different background, then the chances are that the marriage won't work. Economic difference is not just about money. It's about what is important in their lives, what is their focus in their lives, and so on and so forth. I've seen many times people who come from poor backgrounds, in many cases, they are very much more money focused than somebody who comes from a wealthy background. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because it means that they have more energy, they will learn something, they are also more careful about preserving things, not throwing things away, and so on. So there is a good aspect to it as well. But there could also be a negative aspect to it, which is much more material focused, whereas you might want to be more spiritual and more charitable and so on. The other one may not happen. I am very careful in what I'm saying, because I'm speaking in generalities necessarily for the subject, but don't imagine that you can that it's that exactly everything has to match. So economic backgrounds are very important. Think about this and say that, can you live with that family? Because you are marrying, you're going to be interacting with the whole family, right? In our culture, we don't marry like in many Western countries, where it's just the two of them and they live on their own, and the rest of either of the family doesn't matter. No, here it matters very much. We are very much in the family. Now, some Aqidah issues are, of course, completely incompatible. So don't even go clear. For example, families that are into grave worship and dargahs and so on, don't even touch them with a baj pole. Just forget it. No matter how, whatever else is attractive, that doesn't work. Other issues may not be totally incompatible, but still difficult to live with. For example, take things like seriousness about salah, take about serious about parda, take the issue of the sunnah, the beard for the man, and so on. I won't say it's completely incompatible, but I would say that it is something. It's like the stone in the foot. Over time, it will create sores. If it doesn't change, then over time you're going to find this getting more and more and more difficult, and it might end up with a breakup. So ideally speaking, all, especially belief issues, ethics and morals issues, fundamental issues of values, these you must agree on. Other things behaviorally, for example, taste in clothes and so on, as long as I'm not saying we are not talking about non-Sharia clothes, but colors, this, that. I mean, those are definitely livable. Now, as I said, I know you didn't marry the whole family; you married one person. But in our culture, the family is very much part of the equation. Even in Western cultures, it is to a certain extent, but not so much. In our cultures, which is the Middle East, the subcontinent cultures, and the African cultures, family is extremely important. Family is very much part of the culture. Family influences and continues and will continue to influence. So if you don't want to spend the rest of your life fighting to keep your husband or wife on the right track, then you better make sure that the family is on the same track as you are. The same goes for lifestyle, manners, food habits, things that they give importance to, and so on. It's not necessary to have an absolute replica of your own home, but the degree to which there is a difference, to that degree you will have to adjust and change. And this applies to both people. You might say, well, food habits, what's so difficult? Well, For example, if you, like me, are brought up in the Hyderabadi tradition and you ate Hyderabadi dum biryani and bagara vegan and shikampur and dam ka khima and parathas and khagina for breakfast and khatti dal. Oh my God! I mean, I'll give my kingdom for khatti dal. And you marry into, for example, an Arab family where for them spices, it's there's no chili, no spices, and so on and so forth. Believe me, you have to love that woman or that man very, very much to be able to eat that food the whole time. Now, you might have somebody who is, kind enough to learn your cuisine and then give you that food, all power to you, weigh that person in gold. But if that doesn't happen, it will get difficult over time. So, I'm not saying don't marry for that reason. I'm just saying be mentally prepared for things like food habits. This might sound, frivolous to you, but experience. I'm explaining to you from experience what that is. Um, Adjustment, remember that all change by definition is painful. So the more you have to adjust, the more pain you will suffer. So the less you have to adjust, the less pain you will suffer. So that is the reason why try to ensure that you marry somebody with whom the adjustment will not be too much, and therefore it is not too painful. Another very important thing, if you marry into a joint family and you have to live with your husband's or wife's family, then there is a whole new set of things that comes into play. And that is something that you should be very clear about. And if you are not clear about that, then that can cause a lot of grief. I think that is, inshallah, something that I will talk to you in the next class. For now, think about these when you are choosing your spouse. The choice is absolutely critical. If you choose the wrong person, then the cost of that is extremely painful and completely avoidable. So don't fall into that trap. And if you choose the right person, then believe me, marriage is heaven on earth. There is nothing that is superior to that. Again, wish you all the best and see you next time. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا رب.